Hi, my name's Terry Martin. I play in a band called Tough Fucking Shit. I am the vocals and I play rhythm guitar. I'm from Brantford and Six Nations as well. Okay, my influences are 50s rock and roll, any type of rock and roll, rhythm and blues, anything from gosh, Elvis, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, and then even coming into the 70s was the 60s MC5. I forgot about them. They were a really good influence of mine. Anything George Thorogood, just absolutely love it. And then it gets harder. They started putting a harder edge on it, even Little Richard back in the 50s. Sex Pistols, I love them from the 70s. Anything like that was a really starting point of my influence. Second influence would be my mother. She also was a very stand-up, fight-back person who said stand up for yourself, and no matter what, stand up for your friends. And she was a very fight-back person. So that really is the roots and core of my influence, and how I was drawn to that type of music as well, who shared that same drive. Can't say enough about my mother, man. She is just solid. Okay, what got me into punk music? Pretty simple. It's whatever gets me off. 4 reasons, personally, what got me into punk music would be, the rock and roll edge. I like that rebellion and that fight back type of music. I like to enjoy that rock and roll that's even sped up fast, with more energy and a little bit more harder, you know what I mean? And that's the heart of myself. And then listening to, when I was growing up, I was listening to rock and roll as a kid. Then I got introduced into metal, which, hey, I liked it. Thrash metal came. Probably in the early 80s I started getting exposed to thrash metal, and it was fast, it was hard, it was scary. I liked it, and that's what is the prelude to my next reason why I like it, because I was scared of it. People were scared of it. Nobody listened to it, and it was good. Second reason why I got into punk music was the fear factor. When somebody is playing music that you're scared of, or you've never seen it before, and it brings out that primal fear in you, that's what attracted me. Listen to the radio bullshit that's on thing did not do anything for me. I guess my first time feeling that was Bon Scott, AC/DC, which I just absolutely love. Bon Scott was such a real down-to-earth guy. He was the guy next door, long hair, looked like a guy from Brantford. And when he comes out saying, flick my knife and I'll change your life, I got a 45, this kind of stuff, there's nothing you can do. I was like, wow, this is scary and it's heavy, and I wanted more. So I like to, and that's a lot of my musical influence too, is that fear factor. I want to get scared again. Everyone has lost that fear of music, that rock and roll fear, that punk rock fear of the 70s and the late 70s and the early 80s. That fighting thing. You know, violence is wrong, but hey, come on. You know, we gotta stand up. So sometimes you gotta do the right, you know, the wrong things for the right reason. You know, and I really admired that, and I love that. Third reason why I got into punk music is my fight back nature. I've always stood up and fought for my friends. I've always never stood silent. Even in school, I would stand up if a teacher was putting down one of my friends or a kid. I got in trouble with the principal all the time. I was fighting on the school grounds all the time because they punched a girl in the chest playing square ball. I'd go out and smoke the guy, you know. I've always had that in me, you know, that nature, and I think I got that from my mom, to be honest with you. And the camaraderie. Fourth reason, camaraderie. I like to have like-minded people fighting for a cause, and especially me being Native, I think that just comes natural. We have to band together to fight for what's right, and that's, I just love standing beside people fighting for a common cause, and if it means protesting whatever in any form, I'm ready. You know, within limits. I mean, you know, I got responsibilities too, so I can't be going out and getting thrown in jail every goddamn weekend. But you know, I got kids, I got a job, I got you know, a wife to be, and I gotta, you know, I'm getting older too, you know, and I'm kind of figuring out, you know, there's different ways to fight. I don't have to use my fists anymore. I'm older. I'm fat. You know, I don't get up as fast as I used to. I don't swing as fast as I used to. So I'm trying to figure out different ways that I can fight. So I use my brain a lot more, but it's still fighting, and I'm going to continue doing that. My first concert, it's hard to say. I was a little kid, I was going to shows. My parents were into country music, so I did see a lot of bands, country bands, Loretta Lynn, this kind of stuff when I was a kid. Gosh, so many older country icons back at the Grand Ole Opry in Wheeling, West Virginia, stuff like that. But the concert that I remember, another concert that stuck out was me and my dad saw the Mamas and the Papas. They happened to be playing at the old, I don't know whether it was Ontario Place then, but it was called something different. But we saw the Mamas and the Papas there, and I really remembered that, and it was really good. But then once I started getting into my own music, my first real big concert was Iron Maiden and Twisted Sister at the Gardens in November '84. We went to a record store in Brantford. It was the called Records on Wheels, and they had a party bus. So we're just young, 14 years old. Hey Mom, I want a party bus. We're good. They're going to drive us there and drive us back. We're going to go see a band. Okay, here you go. Here's your $12. Paid for it, whatever it was. Can't remember. So we get on this party bus and it's just mayhem. Drinking. My friend Scott went with my friend Scott. He stole a bottle of JD from his dad's liquor cabinet. We went on the party bus. Everybody's drunk. There's high. It's like Cheech and Chong in the goddamn bus. There's two buses leaving. One bus gets busted before we even left the Civic Center in Brantford. Anyhow, we head out. So we're on Highway 2. This is before the 403 was built to Hamilton. So we're heading down Highway 2. The bus driver has a fucking Cheech and Chong 3-paper going on. And he's driving us, a busload of kids, honking on this, taking whatever's being passed around. I get to the show. to the gardens. We unload the bus. I threw up on the sidewalk. I walk into the gardens, and then a bouncer grabs me, or whatever, the security, and says, "Get these wristbands off, they're weapons," this and that, frisks me. I'm too drunk to reply. I said, okay, so I complied. Saw Iron Maiden and Twisted Sister. Twisted Sister fucking ruled. That's who I really wanted to see. I liked Iron Maiden, but Twisted Sister is the one I wanted to see. And then, somehow I made it back on the bus, and I made it back to Brantford. Okay, my first punk show was, okay, I wanted to go see Social Suicide and Problem Children and the Empty Hours play at Resurrection School. This was probably 1984 again. I was sick and could have had an ear infection or some kid thing going on. I wanted to go, but I couldn't go. And so basically when we were forming our own bands back in the mid-80s, and I had a band called Mr. Yuck, and I formed it. So anyhow, I was the first punk show that I saw. It was me. So once I listened to all the records and everything else, we rented a community hall. I think it was Grandview Community Hall. Back then, a couple other bands, friends of ours. So there was probably 3 bands. We reached out to Toronto band MSI and maybe another one. It might have been Missing Link. I can't even remember now. But yeah, I was the first punk show that I saw, and I performed because I was a drummer, and I am a drummer, but I was drumming back then. And so yeah, that was my first punk show. Was my own band. Okay, my favorite shows. I guess my top one would be Alice Cooper. Theatrics, crowd involvement, the music. I've always listened to Alice Cooper, growing up and stuff. When I saw Alice Cooper, when the whole skinhead thing was coming on about the racial skinhead, neo-Nazis and racism thing was coming out, he actually impaled a skinhead in the front row with his microphone stand. He smashed the pot off his fucking microphone stand, and this guy was beaking him off at the whole show, and we all saw it. And then halfway through the show, he just busted the pot off of it, and he shoved that fucking microphone thing right through the guy's chest. The blood was flying. I couldn't believe it. The crowd stopped. Some girls were screaming. Security was running. We went, what the fuck? And it was so real. And and then they carried Alice Cooper off the stage. They took him out backstage. The paramedics came out, grabbed the skinhead, took him out on a stretcher, this and that. And then, and then he came out and did his conviction. So they tried him right on stage, and then they guillotined his head right off right in front of me. And I couldn't believe it. We were high. It was just amazing. I've never seen anything like it. Anyhow, Poison Idea was a good show. Saw him at the Siboney, probably the late 80s or something like that. A bunch of us went down. It was me and Chico. And, we brought a friend with us, and he's never been to really many hardcore shows. And he loved Poison Idea, so we took him. And he bought a shirt. I think they were like $20 back then. It was big money. And it was like, he goes, yeah, I got a shirt. Alright, so Poison Idea fucking comes out. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think they opened up with Lifestyles. And the song Lifestyles is probably the most heaviest Kings of Punk song on that album. And fast. And even in the intro, I couldn't even stand up in the pit. It was just rough. The music hadn't even started yet, and I'm already having a hard time. Music starts, and everybody just kicks the shit out of each other. And gosh, I remember, the Goofs were in there, us, a lot of Toronto friends, and it was mayhem. And anyway, the song stops, and my friend comes out, and he thanked me. He goes, "Thanks, Terry, for taking me to Poison Idea." And his brand new shirt that was only like a minute old or 2 minutes old was torn like this, and his nose was fucking looked like it was broken. There was blood all over, and I just laughed at him. But yeah, that was a pretty good show, and pretty rough, but it was excellent. GBH Accused. I think we saw them in '87 at the Diamond Club. That was where Phoenix is now, if I do believe. Yeah, Accused just blew, in my opinion, blew GBH right off the stage. I couldn't believe it. That was a really good show that stuck out in my mind. We saw the Ramones. I saw the Ramones the first time at Dallas, a bar called Dallas in Hamilton. I wasn't really familiar with it. It's the first time I went. It was more of a country-oriented bar from what I saw. There was a Mechanical Bull there. It wasn't that big. Not a big venue. So Teenage had, Ramones played. Fucking rough. I think we committed every crime that night as young punks. Started in Brantford and then carried on the crime wave all the way to fucking Hamilton. I think I got in a fight that night, and I remember that. Bouncer kicked the other guy out. I got to stay. And yeah, it was just mayhem. Even the after show antics and driving home back to Brantford, it was crazy. And then probably George Thorogood is another one. First time I saw him, excellent. I've always been a fan of George. Loved his music. Got off work early. First time I saw him, got tickets. Got off work around noon. We started power drinking, doing our other antics, smoking and doing pills and whatnot. And then, yeah, I finally show up to Lulu's. And I already got the cold sweats by like 7 p.m. This kind of thing going on. George Thorogood finally comes on after the house band, announces that Budweiser pitchers are now on sale because he loves Budweiser beer. So, of course, I get 2 pitchers, and I'm on the dance floor, and we start dancing, and music starts. I cross the line towards the stage once, get a warning. Second time, hey, don't cross the line. I says, I'm getting pushed by the crowd, dude. Sorry, dude. Kept drinking my pitchers in each hand, dancing away. And then third time, you do this again, you're out. So the third song comes on, 1 bourbon, 1 scotch, 1 beer. So I start fucking screaming. So then we all start carrying on. Song carries on. I think when you get to the, I ain't seen my baby since the night before last, I crossed the line, and all I got was a chokehold, and the bouncer opened the door with my frickin' head, and pictures were gone, and I'm looking at the stars, laying in the parking lot. So, yeah, that was a really good show from what I tried to see. Saw him a second time, and I got to see the whole show, though. Okay, the craziest thing that at a show, or even when I played, like I told you, Poison Idea, when I saw them at the Symphony, that was pretty wild. Roughest show probably I ever saw and ever been in, and I got hurt. Daglow and Drunken Anger at the Civic Center. That was pretty wild. I mean, Brantford shows were always tough back in the day, I mean, you just didn't have punks coming in. You had jailbirds. You had a mixed crowd mixing in with people. But yeah, even before the show started, I mean, there's fights, there's blood, there's cops. Yeah, Colombian Necktie opened up for Drunken Anger, or one of the two, or Drunken Anger opened up for Colombian Necktie. Can't remember that. But yeah, fights galore. And then Daigle played, and they said, all right, I want everybody to flip their tables. We're not playing until everybody flips their tables and it starts getting rowdy. And then so Brantford did, because that's what Brantford does, and back in the day. And yeah, it got pretty rough. There's chairs flying around. I had chairs flying over my head, bottles flying, everything else, people screaming. And I think, I don't know who was singing for Daglo. It might have been Jimbo back then, but and he goes, "Oh, I didn't know you guys really meaned it." But it happened. Anyway, they play, and then mayhem happens. Cops were there. Yeah, people fighting police and everything else. There was when I played for Drunken Anger, me and Chico formed Drunken Anger back in the day, late 80s, early 90s. But anyway, we played a show with Random Killing in the Brunswick in London. It was a 2-night gig, and so the first night we played was, you know, it went well. Even when we did sound checks, there's an old guy who pissed himself, an old man who was drinking in the bar. We did a sound check and he pissed himself because we scared him. And then anyhow, played that night. They put us up in a hotel called the Richmond Hotel, and it was just a dive. Yeah, at the time it was just like, you know, used condoms, wine bottles, you know, bullshit hooker kind of shit going on. And we said, what the hell are they putting us up in this hotel room? Who do they think we are, you know? And so we pulled a motley crew and we just fucking trashed the room. And yeah, Random Killing was there. We just had a great time. We basically just drank ourselves and had a good time, and the hotel didn't survive. And we just threw the keys in and locked the door in the morning. Gave the promoter shit the next morning, and we said, hey, you know, who do you think we are? You know, so they put us up in the Ramada the next night, you know, have a good night's sleep, you know, the next night. But that second night we played, there was a lot of, it was a hate crime, I guess you'd call it. A gay guy had gotten stabbed to death out in front of the bar, and I remember that. And the police, we had to take our equipment out in another door because the crime scene happened right outside the front of the hotel. And that kind of like, you know, I was like, whoa, you know, holy shit. But yeah, that was a pretty wild weekend. What else? Ex-Imperial, Legion in Brantford. It was us, Drunken Anger, Psychosomatic, and I think Random Killing played. Crowd got rough again. A lot of jailbirds showed up to the show. This kind of thing, and then it turned into a lot of fights, which is very common back then. Fights all over the place, people screaming, girls screaming. And then it turned into an anti-cop thing, and people writing, kill cops on the dartboards and chalkboards and all this other shit. And Random Killing played. I fractured my ankle that night. I was jumping around in the pit, and my foot kissed the stage. And, yeah, it was a wild night. Pretty big hangover that night too. Gosh. Yeah, that's probably the craziest stuff that I seen and had. Okay, current and past bands. Well, in the mid-'80s, with me and my cousin Ian and some other friends, we formed Mr. Yuck. It was fast teenage punk back then. We sung about what we wanted to sing about, what was important to us back then. But what was unique about that band is that we had 3 singers. So there was only so many guys that had instruments because we were all poor back then. So I had drums, another guy had a guitar, somebody played bass. We just appointed them to play bass. He fucking sucked or whatever, didn't matter, we don't care, you're in the band. So anyhow, so we had a lot of songs written. So there was a lot of my peers that wanted to form bands, but they didn't have the people to support, you know, to play bands. So I said, well, why don't all 3 of you sing for us? So you write your songs, we'll write our music, you get up, you sing a song. You step aside, next guy comes in, he sings a song. Next guy comes up, he sings a song. So we had, that was what unique about Mr. Yuck. It was great. It was more of a community thing, and we did with what we had. We had shitty equipment. We sounded like shit. We were fast. We were heavy. You know, we tried to be heavy, and that's what happened back then. A lot of dynamics started to form later on in the 80s. This guy quits. I don't like him. Fuck him. Whatever. So the band eventually broke up. We had one demo tape. Back then it was demo tapes. We hung around the Social Suicide guys, so they would kind of help us record. Don Jackson recorded us, and then we put the tape out and did it in consignment at our local record store, Records on Wheels. We actually did really good in sales. We actually beat Guns N' Roses, Rod Stewart, and Cinderella back in the day. We exceeded the sales. We even made the Brant News. Yay! And yeah, it was really good. It was a lot of kids at that time really supported us. We played parties non-stop. Every fucking party we fucking played. It was great. Yeah, a lot of house fucking shit going on. And then when that band broke up, things were dwindling down. Chico and I were hanging out, and he wanted to make a band. And I said, well, let's make a fucking band. So me and Chico formed Drunken Anger, late 89, 90. And we made a demo tape called Beer Bottle Whippin' Music. And then it was old school punk. It was tough. It was probably questionable according to today's standards as far as lyrics are concerned. It was dated, but it fucking rocked. It's probably one of my fucking favorite albums. And then we put out The Abuse I Love, and we did that recording as well. Then after The Abuse I Love, I'd quit the band and moved on to other things. Steve Turley as well. Me and him quit the band. Drunken Anger went on with other members and flourished, and they were a great band. And they went right up until, like, oh gosh, early 2000s. They were like awesome. I was so proud of them, actually. They did really well. Really good guys. And then I just played in, you know, party bands and this kind of stuff. Played classic rock. You know, Blondie, didn't matter. I didn't give a shit. I fucking drummed for anything. Raised a family. And then I got a vasectomy in 2006 or something like that, or 2008. I can't remember. Anyhow, so while I'm sitting there with a bag of peas on my balls, I says, you know what? I got a lot of goddamn songs floating around in my head that I want to write. So I went to the music store with my swollen balls, and I saw this recorder. It was almost like a 4-track, but it was an 8-track, a digital 8-track at Pat Alonso's. And oh shit, it's only, you know, $250, $300. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. So I bought it. Went in my basement, set up my drums, set up my microphones, had one song, wrote the fucking drums, did my guitar, did my bass, sang my lyrics. Holy fuck, I just made a song. So I did another. Then I did another. Soon enough, I had Tough Fucking Shit set list. So then, and it was all me. All music written by me. So my lyrics are real street level lyrics and stuff that happens in my life, and it's all true. So I can't sing about, you know, anti-war this and war that, or Nazi this, Nazi that, you know, like a lot of generic punk, you know, usually funnels into. So when I sing, I want to have tears in my eyes, and I'm going to fucking do it, and it's part of my healing as well. So as growing up, it's kind of a healing thing, and getting it off my chest, and I'm going to fucking give it to you whether you want to hear it or not. So I named the band Tough Fucking Shit. It is not in a macho sense. It's Tough Fucking Shit in the context is that's just too damn bad. Tough Fucking Shit. It's not a macho thing at all. So so that's how I named myself, and I want to look myself in the mirror. So I made that band. Here I am now. So after a third lineup, we have a band, and we're putting out an album right now, finally, after this COVID shit. So yeah, looking forward to it, and we're going to rock your asses off. Okay, what I like about being a musician is I like playing rock and roll. I like to write about lyrics on a street level. I've always grown up kind of like in that street level atmosphere. I'm not a university type of polished, I guess you call it, lyrics, like propaganda and stuff like that. I tell it the way it is, and in order to get my passion, again, I talk about my own life experiences and stuff like that, whether it's good or bad, and a lot of it is bad, and that's where I get a lot of my emotion from. So if I'm not singing with tears in my eyes, I'm not fucking singing. You know, a lot of generic punk bands, you know, like I said before, a lot of, you know, they fall into that, you know, what I see is a pattern. And I'm more of a rock and roll guy, so I don't really follow that format or fall into that slot. You know, I may swear, I may, you know, talk about being violent, fighting back in my own way, because that's all you know. That's all I ever knew back then. But anyhow, I like learning new stuff. I listen to old classic rock and stuff like that to get my skills levels up. I'm a drummer by trade. I'm playing rhythm guitar, trying rhythm solos. I can do that, but again, limited. So what I need to do is just take guitar lessons and actually learn how to play guitar. But a lot of it is in my head, and that's how TFS was built, and a lot of my songs were made, is through my ear. So I listen, and then I just play it. I took guitar lessons when I was a kid. I was in the conservatory, of music when I was very young and play guitar. It got boring. I didn't want to play Saints Go Marching In and all this other shit. So the teacher recognized that, took me out of the conservatory, and he said, Terry, you have a skill. You need to be in a different class or different thing. So he said, my band is playing. He had the teacher had a band, a cover band, and at night. And so he invited me. And this was probably 1982, something like that. I was just, probably 12 years old. And he said, he handed me some songs. And he said, learn these, come to the jam. Okay. So 2 weeks I learned these songs, and I showed up to his jam at a fire hall. So it was The Cars, Cheap Trick, Lighthouse, Raise a Little Hell by Trooper, this kind of thing. And I went there, and he introduced me, and I was just a kid, and all these men with beards are there, and I was kind of intimidated and scared, and they said, all right, well, here we go. We're going to do, a song, I Want You to Want Me by Cheap Trick. So I played rhythm, and I kept up with these guys, and I was playing, and I couldn't believe it. And he goes, yes, Terry, this is where you belong. And he goes, you don't belong in a conservatory of, learning this, fundamental bullshit. He goes, you have a different interest kind of thing, way I was going. So anyway, I went in there and I nailed it. I wasn't doing Johnny Be Good. The teacher was doing the solos, but I was doing the rhythm. And then ever since then, I never looked back. And then I really had a passion for drums. In 1984, I took up the drums, and I've been a drummer for most of my life, and still am. And then when I started TFS, that's when I picked up the rhythm guitar again, and here I am. What I don't like about being a musician is when you grow up, you got work, family, blah, 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 this going on. It's hard to fit, that in there. So when you want to be creative, you can't just say, okay, Terry, here's your window, write a song. No, I find I have to be in the mood to write it, and when I write a song, I have to sip a few whiskeys. I have to see what's in my heart at that time, and then that's how I do it. So I find that life kind of holds you back. It almost denies you of your potential. So I try to do the best that I can with my own, limited abilities, and I just rock the way I want to fucking rock. And you don't like it, I don't really fucking care. My favorite food has got to be Indian tacos. I love tacos. I love Mexican food. I love Indian tacos. I love pizza. Carbs don't do any justice for me, as you can see. But I love pizza. Yeah, anything homemade stews or homemade soups I really love. Yeah, I'm an easy peasy guy. Just don't give me liver or don't give me sardines. Okay, my useless talent. When I was younger, my mom was sick, and she was in a wheelchair. And so when we were teenagers, when mom went to bed, when we were drinking and partying and stuff like that, I would always sit in my mom's wheelchair and do, try to do wheelies and, stupid stuff like that. So anyhow, this is my useless talent. Nope. And I used to cruise around the house like this, out. I'm a little bit shaky now because I'm a little bit heavier than I was when I was a teenager. Cheers, motherfuckers.